Impeachment as a political ploy. That's where we're at in this current political climate. Marjorie Taylor Greene, as a lot of you are probably aware, she introduced articles against Joe Biden day one. So it just goes to show that should the GOP gain control of the House in 2022, things probably won't look too good for Biden. You get into that political tit for tat. And in my opinion, that only creates further division. It needs to be something where we get back collectively, not looking for political vengeance, where these tools that are in place are used in actual instances where you can get bipartisan agreement. You guys get what I'm saying. It can't just be something done willy-nilly. As I said, political tit for tat. That's all I'm going to say on this, but let's see if they name the 5 individuals, 5 senators here. I have some guesses. We'll see if I'm right. It's over. Let's move on. Republican senators blast Trump's second impeachment as dead on arrival. After 45 of them effectively signaled ex-president will be acquitted by voting the trial unconstitutional. And just real quick, this gives kind of credence to that whole Patriot Party versus what Trump seemed to signal yesterday, distancing himself from the Patriot Party for now, but using his money, his influence to primary those individuals who voted for impeachment, those 10 individuals within the GOP in the House, primarying them. Liz Cheney was mentioned. There were a few others. This shows that the political power is there, that perhaps these senators get it, that they don't want to be primaried because, say what you will about politicians, we all have our opinions. We know that their sole objective on either side is to get reelected once being elected. A majority of Republicans voted on Tuesday that Donald Trump's second impeachment is unconstitutional. It's a sign the former president will likely be acquitted in his upcoming trial, which is due to begin on February 8th. On Tuesday night, Senators Marco Rubio, Ted Cruz, and Lindsey Graham appeared on Fox News. All 3 spoke out against the impeachment, describing it as a clown show and vindictive and illegal. Republican Senator Rand Paul on Tuesday night accused Democrats of double standards. He said Democrats had appeared to incite violence when one of Bernie Sanders' supporters shot Steve Scalise and said Maxine Waters and Cory Booker urged people to get up in the face of Republicans. Don't know about the Booker story, but I've talked about Maxine Waters and that before, right? Get in their face, make them uncomfortable, gas stations. And what I've said is if you're going to espouse that kind of rhetoric, you have to stand behind it. Don't be a coward when it turns around and backfires on you and try to hide and act like you didn't say it. Or you say something, try to get people riled up, and the other side does it, and then you point the finger, yeah, it's them. You're a coward. You're a coward. When you call for stuff like that, you've got to stand behind it. Paul earlier on Tuesday had forced the Senate to vote on the matter, asking whether the impeachment should proceed. I think it'll be enough to show that, more than a third of the Senate thinks that the whole proceeding is unconstitutional, which will show that ultimately they don't have the votes to do an impeachment, Paul said. A total of 45 Republicans voted that the trial was unconstitutional, while 5 sided with Democrats. Not to be nitpicky, but why would he say more than a third? There's only 100 of them. 45 voted unconstitutional. Why don't you just say 45%, baby? Paul said the vote meant the impeachment trial is dead on arrival. It's one of the few times in Washington where a loss is actually a victory, he said. Paul spoke after a trio of his colleagues in the Senate labeled Donald Trump's second impeachment a clown show, a stupid joke, vindictive, and unconstitutional. Marco Rubio, Ted Cruz, and Lindsey Graham of South Carolina all appeared on Fox News, as we heard above, arguing it was wrong to press ahead with impeaching the president. Paul told Fox News' Maria Bartiromo that the impeachment was a partisan game designed to punish Republicans. He added, they want to say he incited violence because he said go fight for your country, and he said march peacefully and patriotically. Paul said one of Bernie Sanders' supporters came to the ball field, nearly killed Steve Scalise. Nobody talked about impeaching Bernie Sanders. And my understanding is it'd be expulsion. You don't impeach a senator, you expel them. That's just something I recently learned. Yeah, I'm coming along, slowly but surely. Maxine Waters has said Get up in their face. So has Cory Booker. Become a mob. We want you to mob them at restaurants and cause mayhem. That sounds like an incitement to violence. But nobody's talking about impeaching Maxine Waters. Nobody's talking about impeaching Bernie Sanders or Cory Booker for saying get up in their face. And I'd be willing to bet that those individuals on that side of the aisle probably, by and large, don't even know that that was said. Or if they hear that it was said, again, oh, well, it's justified because, the other side's so horrible and social justice, yada, yada, yada. You can't, as I said, you've got to call it all out or call none of it out or you're a hypocrite. So it's a significant hypocrisy and double standard that they're putting forward, and they should be called out on it. Nobody should be shy about calling them out on their hypocrisy. Something I've been thinking about, regardless of what side of the political aisle you're on, and I'm talking to you right now, is would this in some way make this guy, by this guy I mean Donald Trump, make Trump a martyr in some way? That's just something that's been kind of running through my mind, that people, yeah, I know he has a ton of hate. I get it. And it's throwing red meat to their base, or to the left, to the far left, to those deranged individuals that hate Trump. But at some point, if you go ahead and just keep impeaching and impeaching, and I've heard that they were thinking about impeaching him more times than the two that we know about, that those just didn't come to fruition. Is there a point where you make somebody a martyr? Where they see, if there's somebody on the fence, they say, hey, this individual, I've been told that they're so horrible, they're the power, they're the fascist dictator, they're the overlord, but yet you keep trying to kick somebody when they're down. At some point, does that turn people into saying, hey, maybe everything that I've heard isn't true? Or for me, I'm the type of person that isn't really with the establishment. Not saying I'm all huge anti-establishment, but I'm just saying if I can see things and I know and I hear things and they keep telling me something's bad, but it doesn't line up with what I've seen and what I've learned, then at some point I'm like, nah, fuck that. You guys are full of shit. I think you're the problem. So that's what I'm saying in terms of martyrdom. Does it really get people to wake up and see that a lot of the political BS back and forth is just that? It's just politics. It's just BS. Does it wake people up is what I'm asking. On Tuesday night, a majority of Republicans had voted in favor of a motion that Trump's second impeachment is unconstitutional, a sign the former president will likely be acquitted in his upcoming trial. Paul, senator for Kentucky, forced the vote on the issue, arguing the trial was illegal given that Trump no longer occupies the Oval Office. He said his vote meant impeachment is dead on arrival. Most Republicans, including their leader in the Senate, Mitch McConnell, agreed with him. 45 of them voted it was unconstitutional. 5 GOP senators joined Democrats. To give them 55 votes to proceed, they need 66. Oh, well, they talk about it here. It would take 2/3 of the Senate to convict Trump, which would mean 17 Republican senators would have to cross ranks, vote for conviction, and, in essence, kill their career, you would think. Paul needed more than 34 votes from Republicans to demonstrate that a Trump conviction would seem all but impossible. He got 44 to join him. Rubio told Fox News' Neil Cavuto that pressing ahead with impeaching Trump for inciting January 6th Capitol riot was stupid and a waste of time, which he argued was damaging to America. It's interesting. I always wonder about Joe Manchin. How do they not take him out of the Senate in West Virginia? I always wonder. You'd think how red it is there, they'd be able to take him out. Maybe next time around when he's up for re-election. It's not even constitutional, he told Cavuto. Logic tells you that. The automatic consequence is you're removed from office. That's the consequence. Obviously, there's a little bit more to it for a conviction, as we've learned, not being able to run for office in the future. You can't remove Donald Trump from office. He's not in office. Rubio said there was no doubt that the president bears some responsibility for what happened. Yeah, I think what I've said before is you can say that. I put a lot of it on media. I talked about this last night. Media, social media, getting everybody riled up, getting everybody in the state where they're crazy. And they think this dude is the second coming of, the H guy. And yeah, he gave it back to them. And I know a lot of you, if you're more on the right or the center, cheered it on. So I would say in that sense, you could say, yeah, well, he's partly responsible, but come on, who of us wouldn't give them shit back if all they do is lie? 4 years of lying, you know he enjoyed that stuff. So in that sense, I could see how Rubio's trying to, what do you say, massage it a little bit. And a lot of you out there are probably like, nah, F that and F you. He bears no responsibility. But as I've said in past videos, to me, it's all about the media, social media, corporations, politicians, anybody that has the power, any institutional kind of power, the educational system, where they're driving this stuff, where they're driving the hatred. And we're all just sitting out here, victims of the bullshit. All right, here we go. I moved ahead a little bit in the article. I wanted to see who the 5 were, and it was a couple of them that I thought it would be. It's over here on this side of the screen if you want to take a look at a few of them right now. Just going to read a little bit about Ted Cruz here. It says a Texan has been strongly criticized for continuing to challenge the election legitimacy, even in the hours after the mob overran Congress on January 6th. But he, in turn, hit back at his critics, accusing them of ignoring Biden's call for unity in his inaugural address. Unfortunately, the congressional Democrats were not listening to a word he said. Cruz told Hannity, see, he's trying to flip it on them, right? And the very first step that they took is to charge down the road of a partisan and divisive and angry impeachment trial. And this is not driven by the needs of the country. This is driven by the partisan rage and the partisan anger that the Democrats feel. They hate Donald Trump, and they are engaging on an act that I think is petty, I think is retribution, and that is vindictive and a waste of time. And so I think it's time to move on. Graham65, who has been in regular contact with Trump since he left the White House, described the impeachment as unconstitutional and ill-conceived. So there you go if you're looking over at the right side of the screen. Mitt Romney, shocker, longtime critic of Trump, and voted to convict him on one article of impeachment in his first impeachment trial. So there you go. 5 Republicans who voted against Trump. You've got Ben Sasse of Nebraska, Susan Collins of Maine, Lisa Murkowski of Alaska. That's no surprise. Those were 2 that I expected to be there, was Murkowski and Willard. And Pat Toomey of Pennsylvania. Toomey, who is retiring. Retiring. So you could say he went out like a chump, if you're on the right, or on the left, he could be a hero of yours who went out with upholding the upstanding dignity that comes with an elected official in our democracy. Patriot Party, or whether Trump is now moving towards acting as the kingmaker, as I've heard some individuals refer to him as, if he's going to work within the framework of the GOP and not necessarily form a third party. And tell me if I'm wrong on this, but my guess is that if he were to form a third party, and I saw some statistics that recently came out, some polls, where it was showing that, in essence, a third party would split the vote, but that a Patriot Party would have a lot larger share of the vote than the GOP. So the feeling is you use the Patriot Party to eventually overwhelm and overtake the GOP. You don't have to necessarily work within the framework of the GOP, but you form the new party and then make sure you're catering to those individuals that are willing to stay behind in the Republican Party. Cater to those individuals, bring them onto your side with good policy, and showing them a better way ahead than to stick with the establishment. So those are the 2 ways that you can really go about it. Embedding yourself within the GOP, or forming this third party and working to bring those individuals into the fold, those disgruntled conservatives, Republicans, leave the rhinos off to the side, the neocons, stuff like that. They can go somewhere else. They can become Democrats, which they probably will anyway. But there is also some kind of hybrid, and I think it starts with what he was talking about and what he's looking at doing going forward is primarying the rhino types. Murkowski, she may not be much of an issue, but Liz Cheney, Willard Romney, interesting question. Deep red Utah. Can they get him out of there? Utah's favorite son, right? Is there a way to get him out of his seat? Is there somebody in Utah they can primary against him that can beat him on the GOP side or the Patriot Party side? All right, that's the article in essence. It went on for a little bit more, but You get it. I mainly wanted to see who the 5 were, talk about my thoughts about third party or trying to hollow out the GOP establishment. Let's look at the comments. You know that there is going to be some divisiveness, just like there is anytime Trump is mentioned. Cruz and his pals want to cast aspersions on the trial because they, should capitalize they, are also complicit in what happened. After the election, they should have said it's over, let's move on. Something about 4 years of Hillary and Russian collusion. I wonder if this Colorado girl would even acknowledge the past 4 years. Colorado girl, if you're watching, Hillary, Russian collusion, MSNBC, Maddow, Hayes, pushing that conspiracy theory for the past 4 years. If she calls that out and then she says what she says, then we can talk. But if you're somebody that likes to pretend like the last 4 years didn't happen and all the BS coming from that side, can't even deal with you. You're off your rocker. You're done. An example of TDS, and like I said, you're gone. Can't even deal with you in life. Are there not more important issues that need their attention than retaliation? So just because a doctor killed patients and they're already dead from our practice, he should be just allowed to live his life without any accountability? Do Republicans know how stupid this argument sounds? Or are they just terrified of the monster Trumper army that they created? The Trumper army. Ted Cruz, 2024. He has his head up Donald's bottom. Rand Paul, a Republican flunky. So he shouldn't be held responsible? No, he didn't do anything. Listen to his speech that day. Nowhere did he incite violence of any kind. And that's what I've said before. If you can show me exactly, and this is the challenge to anybody on the left, if you can show me exactly what he said that encouraged it, specific words, not your interpretation, show me exactly where he said, go do this, this, and that, go do what happened at the Capitol. I'll throw on a Biden hat right now. I'll throw on a Kamala Harris I'm with her sweater if they make those, but they can't. And that's the thing about it. When you're having such a high-level charge, when you're really claiming sedition and all these other things, treason, then you have to bring the receipts. These GOP enablers are obsessed with Donnie, never having to face consequences for anything. DM is letting pro-Trump bots here that are upvoting their own comments. Okay, you know, it is kind of funny though on DM here, this Daily Mail. There'll be several stories about Trump where the comments are like really high upvotes and low downvotes. There'll be other stories that are the opposite. So it's interesting. Maybe the bots are on the right. Then again, maybe they're on the left. Thanks for watching, everybody. Take care. February 8th, we'll see what happens. Be well, everyone.